The real question about the complexities of trade in the context of corporate globalisation is really whether bilateral deals add value for either Australian citizens in a social impact terms, or for Australian in terms of economic impact and sustainability. You'd have to say, in the face of corporate globalisation, the need to set up a global set of rules, a multilateral base of global rules that underpin a trading arrangement that is fair, is the imperative. And to the extent that bilateral deals distort the trade relationships in a multilateral sense, then that's not constructing a fair approach to globalisation that works for people and for economies.
World trading rules should be set on a multilateral basis, not on a bilateral basis, because otherwise you get all sorts of distortions as a result. And the sort of lousy agreements that we negotiated with the US, where the US ran all over our negotiators and we ended up with a deal that was very bad for Australia, those sorts of deals is what we're likely to get from bilateral agreements. And the next round will be the bilateral agreement that's now to be negotiated with China. I can imagine what sort of negotiating strength we've got.
When you actually have bilateral trading arrangements, these deals are not actually free trade deals, they're actually preferential trading deals. And that means that the agreements you might have with America or with Singapore or with Malaysia or Thailand or China in terms of the deals in the making are potentially then distortions in terms of a global trading environment that is fair for everybody. So America, with its dominant economy, for example, can cut deals all around the world, or China can cut deals all around the world, but to the extent that you deny other countries and other communities access to a global market on a fair and transparent set of global rules, means that you're actually distorting the trade relationships in the interests of some and against the interests of others.
The World Trade Organization are including issues of workers' rights in multilateral agreements. Certainly the trade union movement's been calling for that. Certainly the International Labour Organisation had a panel of international experts look at this issue of the link between labour standards and trade, and they've certainly recommended that there's a need to do something about this. But at this stage there's very little evidence that the big countries like the United States are prepared to really support any really effective and binding link between trade agreements and labour standards.
If workers in China, in America, in Australia, in any other country with which we have trade agreements, don't have access to their rights to freedom of association, to collectively bargain, to be free from discrimination of child labour or forced labour, those very core labour standards, if they don't have rights to the highest standards of occupational health and safety, then they're not being treated with the respect that international labour standards would dictate should be the case. So that again is a trade distortion, and the only people who benefit from that are multinational companies who reap greater profits from cheap labour. You can't have a system that's based on bilateral preference. Multilateral governance, complaint systems, rules that are actually able to be implemented, monitored, and indeed corporate liability where the respect for those rules is not there. They're the tenets of a fair system that will create sustainability on a global scale for everybody. Bilateralism is distorting, it's about preference, and frankly, it's not about fairness for a labour force, whether it's ours or any other countries, that generates decency in terms of respect for labour rights.